Oh, the world sure feels noisy and a little unmoored. Same power structures and playbooks, different decade, but same outcomes. What? We need to change the game. But Women Advancing isn't about fixing women. We're busy reorienting leadership for the world we're living in and the one ahead. I'm your host, Kate Byrne. Each week, I talk with the women shaping what's next. Join us as we reset the compass on Women Advancing. Hey, everybody. It's your host, Kate Byrne with Women Advancing. Well, making history is one thing. Showing up the next day to do the work is another. That's right. I got it. Now what do I do? Well, some of the most important leadership in this country doesn't happen in Washington. It happens in town halls, school districts, boardrooms, local communities, where decisions directly shape people's daily lives. On today's episode of Women Advancing, I'm joined by Dr. Thelma Witherspoon, who's the Hamilton Township Committee woman for District 3 in Atlantic County, New Jersey. In 2022, she made history as the first African-American woman elected to the Hamilton Township Committee, and she was reelected again this past November. Now, why would I be having this conversation? Well, as you'll soon hear, there are so many parallels to leadership in public service and leadership in the private sector. It's not about making history. It's about what happens the day after. Thelma's career spans law enforcement, education, faith leadership, and elected office. And it gives her a rare perspective on service, accountability, and the real work of governing. And yeah, I'm going to say it, real work of leading. We talk about the power of local leadership, sure, the importance of listening and watching and asking questions, the responsibility of being the first, and how faith and civic life actually intersect, and the relevance of all, and what it takes to inspire the next generation of women to step into leadership roles and, into public service. Because boy, if more women saw leadership as stewardship, our communities would sure look different. So join me. Let me hear what you think. Stay to the end. Lots of KB takeaways on this one. And again, the parallels. Enjoy. Women Advancing listeners, welcome. And please join me in welcoming Dr. Thelma Witherspoon, who is the Hamilton Township Committee woman. We will be speaking about so many things, a little bit of faith, but really a lot more about power and women using their voice and leveraging their influence and political power. And Thelma has done exactly that, especially local level. So, Thelma, welcome to Women Advancing.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here.
It's my pleasure. And thank you seriously for making the time. So important these days, right? Really
So true.
Getting our voices and getting our thoughts, and frankly, getting the issues that really matter to such a broad base of constituents. So I kind of want to start a little bit back about how, you're making history. And then you just said, okay, great, fine. I'm getting back to work. And what I mean by that is back in 2022, you made history, right, as the first African-American women elected to the Hamilton Township Committee in Atlantic County, yeah? And then you're reelected this past November. No small feat. I'm kind of curious, what does it actually feel like to be a first? And how do you balance that symbolic weight with the very real, just everyday, getting it done work of governing?
Well, actually, I didn't know I was going to be the first. I wasn't
sense.
running to be the first. I was running for a seat. And it just so happens, after I win the seat, I find out that I am the first African-American woman, but not first woman. There were about 11 women prior to me that were elected to Hamilton Township Committee, but I was the first African-American woman, and I didn't realize that until after I had won.
After it all started.
Right.
And what was that like?
I was very honored, that the people had elected me. And also I felt that I was paving the way for other women to come after me, that they wouldn't think that it was impossible and that it couldn't be done.
Yeah. It reminds me of way back when Carly Fiorina was the first female CEO of then Hewlett Packard, HP. And I can remember reading her quote where she said, "Ugh, I look forward to the day where it's just, it's not stated that I'm a woman CEO." And I would think that would be true for racial, for, um, love preferences, all sorts of things like that, where it just isn't even a part of the descriptor. It's the best person won, the most, accomplished and capable candidate got it.
Well, the residents spoke.
Right.
So it wasn't based on any unrest, DEI, or anything like that. It was the residents and the voters who decided who they wanted to represent them.
So, what I want to ask is there's so many younger people who are honestly who are not active in voting. How can we how can we get them engaged?
I think we have to bridge the gap.
Say more
Um,
about that.
yeah, I really believe that sometimes we take things for granted. We assume that the experiences that we have, that the younger generation knows and understand,
Right.
and they don't. Because a lot of times we've shielded them, we protected them from certain things, and so they don't may not know the sacrifices or what you had to go through to get to where you are. And so I find that we have to do a better job in bridging the gap and not assuming that they know, but showing them the way and showing them maybe what we have gone through testimonial wise,
Right.
and let them see it.
Right. I think that everybody gets a little bit, there's a lot of apathy,
Right.
right? It's like, so I'm going
Correct.
to say it and then it's not going to matter anyway. And we're just going to just get more of the same. But, this leads me to really think about the power of local versus national. Because, so much is paid, especially nowadays, to national
Mhm.
politics. But real deal change often happens really closer to home. What do people misunderstand about that, sort of the power and responsibility of local office,
I
especially for
think they
women
don't
leaders?
really understand because they're looking from a national perspective.
Right,
And so they see the national issues, not realizing that all politics start local, and that you have your everyday person who may have an issue that needs to be resolved. Revolved, it's not resolved from a national issue, from a national level, because they may not know that person,
right,
right? So it's resolved from a local issue. If someone is concerned about a pothole, or they're concerned about a tree that's fallen, or salt that's not down, or roads that need to be paved, and they're not going to call their congressperson for that. They're going to call the local person in order to get those issues done. So I think sometimes we maybe not really understanding that the power of the local person who's representing you, the power that we have, or the power that they may not know that we have.
right. And
I
also
think
that
that we have to tell our story. I believe in telling my own story. I don't wait for anyone to tell my story. I
right.
tell my own story through social media, through anywhere I can, so that people are totally aware of what's going on in the community that I serve.
So share a little bit about your story that got you up to where you are now.
Well, actually, it started when I was in junior high school.
Mm,
I saw Shirley Chisholm
mm.
as the first African American woman congresswoman in New York.
Wow.
And she even ran for president. She wasn't successful, but she ran, and I was very intrigued by that. But not knowing that I would later be involved in politics.
Mm,
But the seed was planted in my mind concerning politics. So I started very young, working on every level of the political aspect, such as knocking on doors. And
right.
I was given an opportunity to the late Mayor Michael Matthew. And they told me they were going to pay me $75 and give me lunch.
Wow.
I thought that was fantastic.
Whew, food and do re mi. Nice.
You're right, 40 years ago, that was
Yeah.
great.
Legit.
And so that was my first experience knocking on doors.
Wow.
and giving information out. I was about 20, 21, and knocking on doors and putting the literature out. And people don't believe in that old-fashioned way of door knocking, but it does work because people want to see the candidate or know something about the candidate.
Well, and especially in this day of AI and all the things, everything's so technological and everyone's busy looking at a screen. It's nice to see a live face, a three-dimensional being, as
Right.
opposed to the other.
I think there has to be a balance
Mm,
because a lot of people are on their phones
yeah,
and they don't have time or they don't want to, after COVID, people didn't want to open the door and knock on the door, you know.
right.
So there has to be a balance because you have that older generation who wants that knock on the door, but you have the younger generation who wants to look you up on social media. They want to see you before they talk to
Decide.
you. Right.
Hmm.
So there has to be a balance. I really
Yeah.
believe that. So that's how I started. And then I met another elderly gentleman who's deceased, Mr. Joe Brown. And he said, well, maybe you want to work for the Board of Elections. And I said, oh, yes, that was good. That's great. And it was a different level, you know. So I
Yeah.
started um, with the Board of Elections when people would come to vote. And so I knew that aspect. I did that for 10 years.
Oof.
And then one day I ran for office for the Atlantic City Board of Education. I was 39. I ran with a Jewish grandmother
Mm,
who just passed away last year, Rochelle Salway. And she was the grandmother and I was the mother.
mm.
And we were running for she was running for our grandchildren and I was running for my daughter. And we figured out, said, well, if I run for the Board of Education, I won't only just help my child, I'll help everybody else too.
True.
And that was my thought process. Actually, someone said that to me
Yeah.
because we were having some issues in Atlantic City, putting the younger children with the middle school.
Mm,
And a lot of people were against that and putting them in an old high school. And I just said, well, I'll just put my daughter in private school. And so someone said, well, that's good that you can do that, Thelma, but what about everybody else?
right.
And at the time, I didn't want to say I didn't care, but it was like, that's not my problem, you know. But later on, my daughter said that she didn't want to go to all girl high school. She wanted to go to Atlantic City High School.
Mm,
So I said, okay, I know what I'm going to do. On top of the fact, I had just gone through a divorce
oof.
and I didn't have the money to keep her in private school, right? So I
Right.
said, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to get involved with the school because I didn't want people to think that I wasn't concerned about my child. So
Right.
I became a part of the Parent Action Council. Then I became the Parent Action President. But what I learned, uh, you can't make decisions on that level. You have to be in the game to play the game.
Hmm.
And you have to be in the game in order to, you have to be elected. You know, I would go to the meetings and tell them what the parents were saying, but it's not that they didn't listen to me, but change really was not going to come unless I was elected to that position. And so we ran in 1999 and we won.
Wow.
No one expected for us to win. Of course, I was running. I didn't expect to lose, but I didn't expect to win either. I didn't know what to expect. And, you know, once I did win, once we won, I was like, oh my goodness, what do I do? Because I was so engrossed in running for the seat.
Oh, I so get that. It's like, I got it. Uh-oh. Now what?
Now what?
Right?
Yeah.
Oh,
And the
God.
New Jersey School Boards Association, they do a lot of education. So I took advantage of that,
Yeah.
you know, because I had to learn how to become a board member and what my responsibilities were.
Right.
So, you
Right.
know, so, and I was willing to do that because I was so proud that the people elected me that I wanted to do a great job.
I would think that'd be so humbling,
It was very humbling.
right? I mean,
Yeah,
oh, honor for
I was
sure.
honored. I was honored. And so I became a master school board member in 3 years.
Oof.
So I
Wow.
took a lot of courses to learn about budgets, you know, to learn about different things that you can't run the school board like a business. It is a business, but it's a separate entity and they have their own rules. And so what might apply to the private sector may not apply on the
Right.
government end. And you have to know that, so I enjoyed that.
Yeah. I would think exactly what you just said is so true. I think so often when someone has experience in one area or one sector, they think they can pick it up and then plug and play. Some aspects maybe, but there's such a nuance. I mean, a real
Right,
nuance. You have to really understand. And one of the ways you do, as your point, is you have a little humility. And so then you go learn, but nothing wrong with that. You ask questions, and you probably did a lot of, I was going to say, observing and listening as well, kind of figuring out the system that was
right,
playing out in front of you, right?
correct. Because the infrastructure is already in place.
Yes.
It may be different players, but the infrastructure is already there.
How were you received since you were new to the game, right? And you were willing to play the game? Were people willing to help teach you how to play this particular game?
No,
Mm.
I had to learn on my own.
Yeah.
Now, you always have somebody, when I started networking with other school board members across the state,
Yeah.
then I had someone that I could call. And then you could also call the New Jersey School Boards Association if you had a question. And they were very open and willing to lead you in the right direction on
Right.
what you needed to do. But I was willing to make those steps. I wasn't too proud. I didn't act like that I knew everything because I didn't. But I wanted to be the best that I could be.
And I would think, to your earlier point, everybody was counting on you. They all voted for you. So you could either be proud and not ask for help and potentially fail because you had
Right?
never done it before, or admit it
Correct.
and said, "Hey, I've got a lot riding on this. This is bigger than just me. I
Right.
want to figure out how this is all done," which is something that so many people encounter when they're just also in the workplace and they're taking a new job or they're stepping up, right, to a new level within a, company hierarchy, if you will.
And you have to understand that it takes a team.
Yep.
Teamwork makes a dream work. I used to be in Amway. And I think everybody done some SA at some time or another.
Absolutely. Yes.
Right. But teamwork makes a dream work, and you cannot do this work alone.
No.
When I first ran, you have your platform. I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that, and I'm going to do this. And then when you get in, you find out you can't do that at all.
It,
That's not
it,
the way that this is done.
so then because how do you contend with that, right? Because to your point, you went out, you're very public, very vulnerable right there and making promises or statements, right? But then all of a sudden you discover, oh my gosh, the whole system is against me. I can't do any of the things. So how do you counter that while maintaining your own, like your own who you are, your own integrity?
I think being honest
Yeah.
and showing your vulnerability and showing that you are willing to learn, that you're not the big know-it-all, you
Yeah.
know. And there were people that were there before you. They're going to be there even after you leave.
Right. This
So
is but a
you have,
moment. Yeah.
right. So you have to rely on the expertise of others that are already there. On top of the fact you have to do your homework. I remember one time in particular when I first got elected, they used to give you stacks of, oh my goodness, of an agenda with packets, and like the day before the meeting,
Of
the day
course.
before. I did change that.
Good.
There
How are you
was
going to get through all that?
impossible for you
Yeah.
to read all of that in 24 hours.
Right.
Right? So I had made a decision, and I really don't even remember the decision, but I know I had made one. And it came up 6 months later. And I said, well, why are we doing that? And they said, you voted for it. That was a learning lesson
Moment. It's like, oh, uh-oh.
that anything that I put my name on or vote for, I have thoroughly investigated. I've read the material. I've done my due diligence. I've asked questions. I've done all of that. But it
Yeah.
was a learning experience for me. And it was one that never had to be repeated. And even being in office now, people say, "Do you actually read every piece of paper?" And I said, "I do."
Absolutely. I
I,
can only imagine that would be a one time.
it was only a one time.
You've had this lifetime of public service because I know you've served in law enforcement and education, faith leadership, which I want to get into in a little bit later, and now, elected office. So, was moving across these systems, did it help shape your understanding of, leadership, authority, and accountability? And was it different in each of those places? Were there some common threads that kind of came your pillars of who you are as a leader?
Actually, it started with my parents.
Mm,
My father and mother were pastors, started a church. And I tell people that if you work in church, it may not, some churches do have schools, but the church itself may not be a school, but yet it is. You learn public speaking, you learn how to work with people, you learn how to resolve issues. There's things that you have to learn. You have to stand up and recite the 23rd Psalm, or right before Easter or Resurrection Sunday. And you got to
yeah,
learn the Bible, books of the Bible, and you have to stand up before the congregation and say it. All of that becomes a part of you, who you are.
right.
And so I watched my parents, Bishop Luke Witherspoon and Juanita Witherspoon, serve the community. My father and mother were from North Carolina. My father grew up in an orphanage. His father died when he was 11 years old. And when he became a man and got called into ministry, he was able to be a father to many. Him and my mother was a father. My mother was, they were like parents to many young people. We had a lot of young people. So I learned leadership from my father and my mother. He would give me a job to do, and he didn't like excuses. And I'm like
Mm,
that today, and we would say, well, I can't do it. And he would
yeah.
say, make it work. And so my leadership started at that point.
Yeah.
And then as you go into various different parts of life, working with the school board, working on your job with the public, I wasn't a police officer, but I worked with the police department in
Mhm.
grants and budgeting. Prior to that, I worked in revenue and finance, and I worked for the city for 35 years.
That's such an
So,
important area to really understand how a city works, spends, allocates its funds,
exactly.
or not.
Or not.
And oftentimes, probably more the or not part. I think, it's funny. My husband and I often talk about this. It's paying attention to what's said, but also maybe even paying extra attention to what's not said. And I think
Absolutely.
finance is kind of like that too,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly. Because on the school board at the time that we were elected, me and Rochelle, we had a budget of $200 million and $100 million in capital projects.
Whoa.
It's the second largest budget in a municipality is the school. And people don't realize that.
No, they don't.
They don't, especially if your kids are out of school or you don't have any grandkids in school or you're not thinking about that, because you've already done that. You're not thinking about the school tax and, things of
Right.
that nature. But it's the most of the times it's the second largest budget in the municipality.
Oh my gosh.
So
I,
I had a lot to learn and I learned a lot, which I believe is helping me today
yeah.
in my role as a committee woman. We had negotiations last night, but I was very familiar with the budget and with negotiations. I was a Teamster. I was also Teamster 331 and shop steward and all of that when I worked for the city.
Wow.
So you learn how to negotiate from
Yep.
a from a regular employee. But then when I
Right.
became an elected official, a school board member, now I have to learn how to negotiate from an administrative side.
Oh, right.
So it's a lot, because now you are trying to make sure that the employee is well taken care of, but at the same time save money in the budget, not overdo it, not overexpend, but
Right.
yet be fair. It's a lot. But it was a very, very good learning experience for me.
Oh, absolutely. All that. Anytime you have a chance to work with the numbers of an organization, so often, I think, especially as women, we're all sort of, some are more nervous. Hopefully, that's starting to really change a bit. But for the most part, there's a lot of assumptions being done by those who are higher up at the same currently. And anytime I've said, oh, you get those numbers, learn how to do those, work with those, figure them out. That is such a key arrow in your quill of
Absolutely.
skills. I mean, you can walk into any room and frankly, you demonstrate knowledge of that, instant
Mhm.
credibility, at least my experience.
And I think that sometimes as women, you think that you cannot do it,
Right.
but when you get in any position, you have to learn it.
Right.
You got to learn it.
Exactly.
And if you're willing to put the effort in and to learn whatever you need to, you'll be fine.
And ask the questions. To
And
me, it's
ask the
just,
questions.
yeah, to me, it's always just if I can just get over myself for two hot second and then move on so I can actually get the job done, then
Right.
get out of my own way. So I've got a question for you. Pastor and public servant, right?
Right.
So you've got political leadership and then moral leadership. And sadly, in this day and age, there's a lot who would say, never the twain shall meet. There, you can't, one can't have the other. It's an either or kind of thing, which is really sad. I understand why folks feel this way, but how does your faith inform how you show up in like civic spaces? Because not everyone believes in something, sadly. So you want to be true to you, but also leave room for others for them to feel comfortable and not feel alienated. How do you balance that or juggle that?
My faith, when I'm working in a political or in the marketplace, let me call it the marketplace,
Right.
anything outside of my religious belief. I'm working in the marketplace for the job that I've been elected to do. My faith shows up in my integrity, in my character, in my honesty, without me trying to proselyte people to believe the way I believe. I believe that my light should shine
Mhm.
and that people may ask me a question. I was once running for a commissioner seat in the third district, and I was so excited about my faith, and I listed a lot of my accomplishments.
Mm.
That offended people, and there were people that were atheists, and I didn't
Ah,
know that. I didn't know that, and so they asked me to denounce my religion, and if I did, they would vote for me, and I said I will never do that. I will never do that. And I didn't. They didn't vote for me. And subsequently, they ran a Green Party person against me that they knew couldn't win. And I lost that election. But I stood true to what I believed,
right.
So I believe that your faith shows up. It was a lesson too. It was a lesson.
I was just going to say, what a fascinating test
Right. It was a
of
test and a
alignment,
lesson.
right?
Right.
Yeah.
It was a
Uh,
lesson that I don't have to push my faith in order for people to know that I'm a great person.
hmm
They can see that by the way that I operate and the way that I present myself and the way that I do things. Now, if I'm asked, I don't deny.
Right.
Right. I don't deny it. But it's not something that I put out in the forefront
Right.
as I did in 2017.
Right. It just doesn't have to be a thing.
It didn't, right. It didn't have to be a thing. It's in my bio that I'm a pastor, a
Hmm.
church, and I wasn't pastored in 2017. I was just, excited about my,
Excited believer. Yeah,
right,
your
right,
faith. Yeah.
right. So I was saying, I had all of my degrees are in my biblical theology, and I have a doctorate of divinity, honorary doctorate of divinity, and I got a master's in biblical theology. So I was very excited because it was an accomplishment, but it wasn't received that way because then they started, you don't believe in this and you don't believe in that. And, they were using my faith
Hmm.
to try to, it wasn't even my platform.
Yeah.
I didn't even have it as a part of my platform. But they were picking out things that they felt that Christians didn't believe in.
Oh,
And they would like attack me, you know, with certain things. So I learned that that was not actually necessary for me to do. You know, I still am
right.
true to what I believe,
Right.
you know. And so, and you have to respect, and I was taught to respect other people, even if I don't believe the way they believe.
Yes.
So it's easy for me to work with someone of a different faith. I
Right.
respect you in what you believe, but I expect for you to respect what I believe as well.
Exactly. And in the end, what we're both actually going for and working on is this, not
Is
even
this
there. It's such a
right?
bigger level. So we got to kind
Right.
of get out of our own ways. That's so true. So, one of the things that I respect so much about you is one, you remember from where you come or came. But second, really, is your willingness and ability of helping others with great intention and encouraging other women to really get in the game. So people like Tracy Thompson to run
Yes.
for office. In your mind, what do women need most when they're on that edge of stepping into leadership, like Tracy is, but not yet convinced they belong there? What do they need?
Confidence.
Right. How can we shore them up?
I think we have to mentor people.
Hmm.
You know, it's not enough to put a person in a position. You have to mentor, and then hold people need to hold us accountable. A lot of times you vote for someone and put them in office, and then you leave them. You never write a letter, you never call them, you never go to a
Right.
town hall meeting or anything, never go to a council meeting or a township meeting. You don't even watch it on video. You have to hold people accountable when you elect them. And
Right.
when I encourage people to run, which I encouraged Tracy to run because I knew her for many years, she was a boots on the ground woman. She knew how to knock on doors and all of this, but this was another level. And I saw something in her. And so I was like, I believe that you can run for this office. And she wasn't sure, but I didn't leave her. I didn't just say she can run for the office and leave her
Have
out
at
there
it.
by herself. You got it, you know. No,
Bye.
bye, you know. And I'm still working with her, you know, to a certain extent. There's once you get elected, there's certain responsibilities that you have to do also because people can't do everything for you, you know. You have to
Right.
read your material, you have to do your own work, but I'm still there and I'm available if she needs a question, or if she has a question, you
Right.
know, I'm there and I'm available for it.
Right. Well, so I know a lot of your work for 2026, right? As Hamilton Township Committee women, excuse me, woman, although you are so many women in one woman, what are some of your priorities for
Well,
2026?
well, number one is working collaboratively with the entire committee.
Mm-hmm.
I think that me is not a way to get anything done.
Right.
And I think that when people elect you, I believe when people elect you or see some, they want to see things go forward in their township or their city.
Right.
And if you're confrontational, you're always argumentative, and you're not really getting anything done. And I
Mm-hmm.
tell people also, there are a lot of things that are going on the national level, right? Not that it doesn't trickle down to the local, but
Right.
people are not concerned about certain things. They want to know what are you doing in the township?
Yep.
You know
Exactly.
what their issues are. You have to be in tune to the issues of your constituents. Not I do know what's going on nationally, and I can talk nationally about what's going on. I can have some dialogue, but that may not affect the my township and the constituents where I'm at. They
Yeah.
have other issues that they're concerned about, and I
Right.
need to be making sure that I'm addressing those issues. That's
Right.
important to them.
Exactly. Because the job at hand is local. That's what you're elected. You weren't all the other things. And,
Exactly.
and and I think the truth is this too is it's like anything. I think well, especially in this day and age when everything seems so incredibly overwhelming. If we were able to just focus on the issue at hand, know that there's, not be completely disregarding of the larger issues, but if we all took care of what we could right here, right now, this part, And then that will lead you to the next part. And then that will lead you to the next part. And you'll end up colliding with folks who can help you really eventually achieve the larger piece, it seems to me.
In Hamilton Township, we have a dam that just got completed.
Mm.
The dam had been broken for 50 years.
Oof.
50.
Wow. And it took that long.
I was a teenager.
Holy smokes.
Now, I wasn't on the township when the ball got to rolling, but when I was elected, I was a part of the decision making and voting. Congressman Van Drew was contacted, and he got a grant and got us several $1,000,000 to help us because the dam costs a lot of money, to be fixed. And a lot of people didn't understand the importance of the dam being fixed, or didn't care about the dam. But they elected me. I'm one of the people that was elected. I knew the importance of the dam, that if the dam had broken, we could have a Katrina.
Oh, yeah.
Thank God we didn't. Thank God it's fixed. And so I was a part of it. I wasn't the only person. It took a collaboration, of course, state, county, our local officials, but I was a part of it. And so I knew the importance of that. And my vote for whatever that we needed to do, I made sure my vote was cast to make sure that that dam was completed. And in the end, it would benefit everyone, even people who didn't even know about it or care about it.
Oh my gosh. Right. Well, see, and I think that's the pit too, is in your position and spot, part of the role that people don't really talk about, but I think is quite evident, especially with what you just shared. Part of the role is being the translator of explaining, and that almost takes us full circle to the earlier question where we're like, how do we get more young people involved? And that as a translator, it's explaining why this issue matters, how this may seem to not touch you, but it does. And here's how, and kind of elevating and educating everybody as well as to how this all really impacts one another.
Absolutely. I think we have to do a better job in telling our story.
Yep.
Tell the story. And people, and I make sure that I have resources that are on my social media that people can take advantage of and things like that they may not know of.
Right.
We have to tell the story. I don't wait on anyone to tell my story. I tell my own story. Yep. And when other people come along, it just enhances what I've already been doing.
Exactly. I was going to say, own your narrative. And that's really, really true, because when everybody else comes to your point, it just shores up everything you said. It's like, see, I said that. I showed you. Oh my gosh. Well, so in your mind, what do you think would change in communities if more women got involved in public service and they took it really as stewardship?
I think that men and women, there was a book, are like Venus and Mars.
Yes, that's right.
We're totally different, and we bring a different perspective. And so women's stewardship, where a male or a man may think one way, we may think another way. Right. And if you put it both together, maybe you can resolve an issue.
Holistically.
So it's for the good of the whole.
Right.
The good of the whole. So I think women running in position and is very important because of that perspective that we do bring to the table. And I'm not a male basher. And I tell people this because I have a father, I have brothers, I have grandsons, so I believe in uplifting everyone, and people in their particular role. But at the same time, I'm not going to dim down my light to make you feel, who you should be. You have to feel that way about yourself, so it's knowing who you are. I think that helps make the difference.
So true. Yeah, I just lost my train of thought, so we're going to edit this.
Well, what I wanted to add to, you was talking about how we bring younger people in.
Yes.
I think that we have to accept some of the younger people's ideas.
Oh, no kidding. Yes, right. So true. Right. We have to listen.
We have to listen to what they say, and
not be threatened.
It called the young in the Bible, says he called the young because they're strong, but he called the old because they know the way. I think merging the two and balancing the two will help bring some of the younger people in, because if they're on social media and you're still not on Facebook, which they say that's the older person's, that's for older people now. Most of the
I
young people
know.
are on Instagram or something
I
else.
know. TikTok, yes.
Yeah, or TikTok, that you have to be able to meet them where they are
Hmm.
and give them that guidance, give them the ability to be able to grow and teach us something.
But that's the thing. Be willing to be curious,
Right,
which then you're a lifetime learner. Then you stand a greater chance of, frankly, being relevant for
right,
life because you're
correct.
always going to have something that's informed when you make a comment, or you'll understand really what's going on and have a better sense of things.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. So with that, what advice would you give your younger self, knowing what you know now?
The advice that I would give myself is to not be a hothead.
I laugh because that's a little something I deal with myself. And my dad used to use that very phrase and say, simmer down, sis.
Simmer down, and you can be right and wrong at the same time. You can be right in what you're saying, but wrong in your delivery. So having wisdom, I think you get a little more wisdom as you get older,
Hmm.
and sometimes you have to listen first. Everything doesn't deserve a comment.
Hmm.
Everything doesn't, you don't always have to have all of the answers, to everything. And knowing that and knowing yourself, you have to know yourself. So I think that's the advice that I would give my younger self, to listen more.
Well, and so important in all of the realms within which you find yourself, but
Right.
especially in this day and age. Really, really
Correct.
important. Oh my gosh. Thelma, thank you so much for
Thank you.
all the generosity of pearls of wisdom and for just your spirit and all the stewardship that you have across all the different sectors and worlds that you interact with. Seriously, it's an inspiration to everybody, and it shows you really can. We all have something to contribute. So let's get going, right?
Yeah, my one of my professors in Bible college, Sharon Stone, Dr. Sharon Stone, used to say that we were all born to solve at least one problem in the world.
Cool.
So
Like
there is
that.
a purpose for all of us, and we just have to find what our purpose is
I love that.
and work in our purpose.
Yeah.
And I'm going to end with, you have to love what you do.
Mm,
If you love what you do, it's not a job, it's not work.
exactly. It's just
It's
it's fun.
it's fun.
And I believe when you are in that state, when you are in that flow, you are at just such a higher level, just energetically, right? There's bliss. You're better able to handle the unexpected things that come your way, uh, because I don't know, you're more fulfilled. And so I also think you realize too that this too shall pass,
Right.
right? And so something else will be coming my way. So, oh, well, I'm going to end on that note too, my friend. So, Thelma,
Thank
thank
you.
you. Thank you for coming to Women Advancing.
Thank you for having me, and I'm very honored that you considered me to be a guest. I want to thank Diane,
Yes,
for recommending me to you, and for us meeting a month or so ago, and getting to know each other. And I look forward to working with you in the future or collaborating on something.
absolutely. Deal. Until our paths cross again.
Bye bye.
Wow. So many KB takeaways from Thelma. And I'm going to speak quickly through them, but they're all very deserving. First and foremost, you have to play the game to win the game. A person with whom I worked once said, Katie, you gotta swim with the alligators without becoming one. Truer words, it doesn't mean you sell your soul. In fact, by not selling your soul and being good at the game will garner you extraordinary influence. And then you can shift the game to how it can be much more equitable and accessible to all. Second, anything you put your name on, read it. Do not check it off the list. Pay attention in this litigious realm and days in which we are living. Don't mess around with that. Just don't mess around with that. Pay attention. You do not have to dim your light. You know that I say that all the time. If someone's threatened by it, it's on them, not on you. You have every reason to shine. And frankly, you're demonstrating they can shine too. There's room for both of you. Personal Kate Byrne message to self: don't be a hothead. You can have opinions, but be open-minded and frankly, intellectually curious. By doing so, you will remain relevant for the rest of your life. Because there's a right way. You can be both right and wrong. You may be right in what you're saying, but wrong with the tone with which you are saying things. So slow your roll and think about how you're sounding and how people are receiving the message you have. How's it landing? Oh, they'll show you. Everything doesn't deserve a comment. So make sure when you're about to say something, are you saying something that's additive? Or are you saying something simply because you want to kind of show that you know everything? And if that's the case, please do not say it, because that will demonstrate quite the opposite, that in fact, you know, oh, so very little. And finally, what Thelma told us her teacher had said, and that was, all of us were put on this planet to solve at least one problem. So I'm going to challenge you and ask, what's yours? Thanks so much. I look forward to the next time we continue this conversation on Women Advancing. Thanks for listening. May this episode inspire you to move forward. Be sure to go to iTunes, Spotify, katebyrne.co, that's KATEBYRNE.co, or wherever you listen to your podcasts, and listen to even more episodes. Here's to strong women. May we know them, may we be them, may we raise them. And be sure to meet them on the next Women Advancing. Till next time.